Welcome to class number 2. Twice as good as class number 1. Yeah, that's right. What? Fermez la porte? Should we close the door?
Just keeps it open for the heat and the cool.
Yeah, you can leave it open. That's okay. Yeah. I'll talk quietly so they can't hear me. So today, I want to insult my audience, which I always do anyway, but I'm going to do it in a different way than I usually do. Okay? Instead of saying, like, why do you play so badly? Why aren't you in the first class? How can you even be here? I'm going to show you positions that you think you're too good for, but you're not. It's shameful. And the things that I've seen, I had to go to the doctor. Well, that's for another reason. Anyway, so the first one is too hard for you, and the next ones are too easy, but they're all the same. And they're all endgames, and I have 6 examples. Now, the first one is bishop and knight versus king, your favorite. Okay, and then some people are shaking their head because it's too easy. That ain't why you're shaking your head. Now, I have some funny stories about bishop and knight. Obviously, the most famous bishop and knight story, the most famous, which you all know. Not even one of you knows, really? It's the most famous one. I think you're going to say, oh yeah, I heard about that when I start telling the story. That's what I'm for you. Yeah, so Ushanina, who was the women's world champion, she played in the women's world championship and she couldn't do it. And it was a draw.
This one afterwards, all the other GMs walked up to her and explained the technique.
Oh, that I don't know, but probably. Anyway, my son, who's a master now, when he was 1700, maybe he was even less. I think he was less. He not only couldn't do it, he didn't know how to do it, and he tried to do something you couldn't do. He's like, I'm going to mate like in this position, and he couldn't because you can't. And then he was confused, then he didn't win. And he was sort of mad about it. Then he spent the next week learning it, and then he was the world's leading authority. About 2 years later, he had it again, and his rating was higher at this point. And he was maybe 1900. He was playing at 2200. So he had to wipe the drool off of his face, and the guy resigned without making him make any moves. And he was like, what? I want to win this. I've never had it in a tournament game, although I have had the losing side in a tournament game. And I've done it blindfolded because it's too easy for me. And one time I did it where I had a minute and my opponent had 5 minutes, and I wanted to see if I could do it, and I did it in 6 seconds. So I know the technique reasonably well. And this is called the wrong corner. Okay? Right? You agree, Ocean? Okay. So this is the wrong corner because this bishop's on a dark square and this king's in a white square. If this was on a white square, that would be the correct corner. And when my son had this years ago, he tried to mate in that corner because the guy's king was there, and he couldn't figure out how because you can't. That's a good reason. Okay. So whatever color your bishop is, you want to get the opposing king in the corresponding corner. So if the king goes here, that's good. And if it goes here, that's good. Now, since this square is protected, I would make him go that way. If I want to make him go here for some reason, for some psychological reason, then I would go here. But it doesn't matter. So let's make him go here. And I can make him go there next, but all right. So we have to kick him out of the corner. Obviously, we're not kicking him out with the king or the bishop. That would be lots of illegality. So we play knight here. You could also play knight here, but that blocks your bishop, so don't do that. Okay. Now in this position, that's the only legal move, right? Okay. Now in this position, you would like it to be black's move because black would move closer to the corner, right? So you make a move that doesn't do anything, and you have lots of options. All of those moves. If you were in time trouble, I would go here or here because it's closer to that square. That's sort of an advanced concept. Okay. And now this is like the starting position, like this particular. Okay. And obviously you have to go here because you have to. Okay. Now the guy wants to run out. And so the best move is knight here, which stops him from running out. Now what's funny is, even though white wants black to go to the corner, black should actually go to the corner now. And the reason is if black goes here, then white has a very simple method. You check him, he has to go here. You defend your knight, he has to go here. You move your king, and if he runs away, you can get the exact same position we just had, but we moved it over 2 files. And if I click here, oh, I clicked the wrong one, man. If I click here and here, it's the same position. It's just moved over much closer to the corner, which makes it, you can just keep doing that, you made him. Okay. So actually, the tough move is not king c8, it's king e8. Now you run your king over. And in this position, black wants to go here. How do you stop that? There's two answers. Knight f4 or knight e7. Based on the bishop coming back to help, where should the knight go so it doesn't block the bishop? Knight e7 is the correct move. Now, after king here, he wants to go here. That's easy to stop. Right? Okay. And now, man, you can't go anywhere. It's harsh. So here makes sense. And now we stop this by going here. And you can see the bishop and the knight are doing a pretty good job. Right? We got him trapped. And we're going to use our king to stop him from going over here. So when he tries to go over there, there's two things we can do. We can use our king, which I don't do, but you can do it. You can play king here. But what I do is I put my knight here because I really like my knight there. I like my, yeah, I'm a grandmaster. I just go there. It might take you two moves. Okay, so you'll notice something interesting. Bishops always go to the same color unless you're in a kids tournament. And knights always go to a different color. Therefore, you actually want your knight and bishop on the same color. That way they go to every color. And this is the same color as the bishop, obviously. They're both red. So you can play knight here or knight here. It doesn't matter. You're going here. You don't care about how you're getting there. Yeah. And now, that's really, really, really good. That was the technical expression. Because look at all these squares we're controlling. Right? That's a lot of squares. So this king is basically stuck here, and then we can use our king for that. So now I use my king. Yeah. Man, the truth hurts. Yeah. Harsh, right? Okay. And I guess I would go here so I have the opposition. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, once the king is in these four squares, we want to take away this one. That's the important square to get rid of. Okay? And I don't want him to escape, so I want to control these three squares. I like when his king goes to the other three. So how do we do that in one move? Yeah, that's the easiest. Yeah, now don't lose your bishop. Yeah. And now you'll notice that this is all he can do. Yeah. And now the rest of the game he does this. And now just don't stalemate him. Stalemate him, you won't win. And it turns out, by accident, I'm not stalemating him. Okay, because this is check. Now, if the king was here, I would play bishop g7 check, and then knight f6 mate. If the king is here, I play knight f6 and then bishop g7. Just do the one that's check. Don't do the other one. So this is stalemate. If the king is on h8, knight f6 is stalemate, and then vice versa. So this would be checkmate. Okay. And probably I could do it quicker, but I do that without thinking. Like all that stuff I did. So in this position, I tried to play well for both sides. I tried, and it took 21 moves. So if I turn the engine on, it'll announce mate immediately. I'm guessing it'll play better than me. So probably 17. If it's like less than 17, I'm embarrassed. I'm like, oh, I just don't know how to do it either. Could be, yeah. Okay. Come on, you can even see mate? Come on, man. All right, yeah, it's going to get much less than that, yeah. Well, I'm not too embarrassed because it's actually taking it a long time to see a quicker mate than I did. So I'm not terribly embarrassed here. Well, probably I didn't defend well. That's probably what it was. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, you can see I did okay because I didn't take like 10 extra moves. Take 10 extra moves, that's fine. Okay, so you're kicking the king out. And then this is like position 1, kicking the king out. Position 2 is this. This is a position. And then here, this is the best move, which might be hard to find if you didn't know how to do it. And then I think if you didn't know what you were doing, you might still go here. You might. Probably you would. Now here, I think very few people would do that if they didn't know what they were doing. But I mean, I've seen it like a million times. Here, you really should play bishop e3 because you don't want the king to run away. And here, I've seen this move also. Like, this is the move that I play. And this also wins. But I don't like stopping him from going in the corner I want him to go in. I'm like, get in the corner over there. So I don't like this move. I think this is, well, I know this is the better move. Yeah. And then you put your knight there, and your king just pushes him in. Well, a lot of people have trouble in easy positions. Okay? And what I mean is, like, it's the middle of the board, and you're just putting him to the edge. I mean, you have three pieces and they have a king. You can't put them to the edge of the board. Like, practice more. There's no set way for me to do that. I have three pieces and you have a king, so I push your king to the edge of the board. I mean, and generally, my bishop has to control one color, so my knight and king control the other one, and then I push your king to the edge. And if I'm defending and I'm forced to the edge, I try to not be in the corner where they mate me. So, yeah. And if you practice this with an engine or with your friend, I can't imagine that like in a few days you're not as good as I am. But if you just never do and say it's hard, then it's hard. Yeah. And it's for me, it's not hard at all. Like if I wasn't looking at the board, I could do it the same because it's the same thing. And if you want to do it the other way, where you want to mate him over here, okay, then I would check here and obviously play here and here. And this is the same position. If you don't believe me, turn your head. And it's the same position. Okay. And then after here, what would you do? What's the same move I showed you? But you have to turn your head, otherwise you won't know. Knight T5. Yeah. Not yet. King C5. Yep. And which move is the equivalent of knight E7? Knight B4. Yep. And what was the equivalent of bishop E3? Bishop F4. Yep. And then bishop D2 would be the bishop. Was it B5? No, G5. Yeah. And then now I wanted my knight here when I was mating you there. So now I want my knight here. Doesn't matter which way you do it. You could. I think I did it this way when I showed you. So now we'll do it this way for confusion. Okay. Yeah. And this is basically what I showed you. It's just on the other side of the board. Now the bishop and knight are killing it, right? Yay, opposition. And what's the move that was the same as bishop H6? Bishop C1. Yeah. And the king's totally trapped. Yeah. And then, hey, this is great. Now it's the bishop check instead of the knight check. Somehow it changed. So this would be stalemate now. And this would have been stalemate when I showed you the other time. Yeah, then this is the mate. So either this is mate or this is mate, doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay, this was also 21 moves. Ooh, scary.
Do you know about SuzukiTables.info?
Who?
It's an Endgame table base that you can probe with your phone. I was gonna try.
Oh, I do table bases on the computer. Yeah, in fact, if you have the right phone, they have 7-piece table base.
Yeah, this is 6 or 7, I think.
Yeah, if for the Apple phones, not the Apple, for Microsoft phones, they have 7-piece. It's free. So if you want to cheat a tournament, it's getting pretty good. Yeah, I usually go to the internet when it's like Rook and Pawn versus Rook, and I go to the table bases. You can buy table bases, but
there's one that's a website. You just drag the pieces around.
Right, that's what I do. I go to the website. It's a German website, the one I go to.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, for this, I don't need table bases. But if it's like Rook and Pawn versus Rook, and it's a weird position, or even if it's some positions, I use table bases. In fact, I did like 3 days ago. There was a game. It was 2 knights against 2 pawns. This happened like 4 days ago in like the Russian championship. And 2 knights don't beat a king, but there's many positions where 2 knights beat a pawn. One knight blocks one pawn, then you almost stalemate him, then you move your knight back, and while he's pushing his pawn, you mate him. And there's a lot of winning positions like that. Now, it started with 2 pawns, then it was 1, and so forth. The game ended in a draw, but I table-based it, and it was always a draw. So the guy defended right, and the other guy couldn't win. I wasn't sure, because sometimes it says, like, made in 97. So, the guy's not going to figure it out. And there are people who have had 2 knights against a pawn where it is winning, and they've done it, and they knew it. Those guys aren't me. Yeah, that's another class. Yeah. Topolov did it, I heard, and I know Fishbein can do it. Like, I know Fishbein does study of that. It's an American Grandmaster, Alex Fishbein. I get confused with him sometimes, because our names are sort of similar. Although a friend of mine calls me Fishgold. That way we get both Grandmasters in. Not Finebein, because that's terrible. Frankly, ridiculous. Now, all of you can mate with Bishop and Knight. I think you could. Yeah. What? You're like, I already knew how, right? Yeah. Yeah, she seemed like she knew what she was talking about. Yeah. So, yeah, you You have to put the king in the corner of the bishop, and usually when the knight and bishop are on the same color, that controls all the squares. And there's not a lot of variations, there's a few. But I noticed when I'm trying to win to show somebody how to do it, I noticed in this position, they usually make the wrong move for black. Because they're like, oh, I don't want to go in the corner, so they go here. And that makes it really easy for me. Because I just get the same position I had when they play king c8. I mean, and then we do it again. I mean, I could keep doing it, and then there's more chessboard. And then we could keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. That sounds like fun. They could keep making it easy for me. Yeah, and now, again, I can stalemate or not. Now here I would go here, and then you would go there, and I would check you. If it's check, it's not stalemate. Right, and that only took 18 moves. Yay. Yeah, and usually that's what they do, is they make it easier because they don't know what's going on. So they run away from the corner, and I can easily push them to the corner when they do that. And if you do it a lot, it's very simple. And in a rated tournament game, I've never had it. I've only had the side that lost. And man, did I lose. I was playing your favorite grandmaster, 4-time U.S. champion from Latvia. I gave him as many hints as I could. No? And he's older than me. Barely older than me. Barely. No? He used to play chess with Tall when he was a kid. Tall would come over and they'd look at chess. And some other people. No, nothing.
This is someone that my brother would know, but I wouldn't. So.
Ooh, yeah, I would assume there's 5 of you. Yeah, I think 4 of you have heard of him. Nothing. Alexander Shabalov. What? You never heard of him either? Wow, 2 out of 5. Are you shocked? Or you're like, yeah.
I've heard of him.
The 4-time U.S. champion. Yeah. He's not as bad as he plays. Now, if you haven't heard of Shabalov, that's okay. There's a Russian grandmaster named Balashov, and it's the same letter, so you can just scramble it up. Yeah, you never heard of him either, right? Yeah. That's my famous queen sacrifice. So I'm playing Balashov, and he's better than me, and I won in the last round in 1992, I believe, in France. And then about 5 years ago, I'm doing tactics on the internet, and a position pops up, and it's my game with Balashov. So I knew the answer. I got a good score on that one. All right. So next is with a rook. Now, most of you don't know how to mate with a rook. I told you I was going to insult the audience. Okay. Now, here's what I see a lot when people mate with a rook. This is typical. I'll show you typical. Okay. This is typical. Okay. Now, by this time, I've gone to the hospital because I shot myself. So this is typical, okay? And this works. I'm not going to deny that it works, okay? And I've never been so mad. And I'm always a little mad. Okay. And what I showed you is like the technique that people are taught. Okay, and that took 19 moves. Okay, horrible. All right, let's turn on the engine. Okay, it doesn't take 19 moves. Okay, so this technique of winning is White's made at least 7 mistakes, at least. Okay, now, you're like, well, what's the difference how long it takes? Well, it does make a difference because if your opponent's not resigning, it's likely you have little time on your clock. So if you're like frustrated, if you're like, oh, I have 10 seconds, so I can't do it in 10 seconds, I'll get flustered. Okay, so basically you're cutting the board off. Rook b5 is already a mistake. It's okay. But I would play rook f2 because I'm already forcing him like back. If he goes here, I forced him back. Or he can go back. So rook f2 is the best move. But the moves that make me mad are in this position. Okay, so if you turn your head the right way, then this is the back rank. Yeah, so like you would go here. But then like it's mate in like 4. So like forcing him back to 1 back rank, very suspicious. This is a back rank, but so are these. And for those of you who are table-based freaks, right? And regular freaks, I talked to the inventor of table bases. It wasn't you. No. No. Yeah. No, nothing? Horrible. Ken? Where, Ken Thompson? Nobody?
Yes, Ken Thompson. Not Grandmaster Ken West.
Right. And Ken Thompson invented everything.
Okay.
You know who Ken Thompson is?
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, that's because he's invented everything.
Yeah, he's in.
Not just chess stuff, non-chess stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got a prize from Japan for being smart. I'm not even kidding. It's like $400,000. Like, you're really smart. Here's money. He was like, I know it. Yeah. Ken Thompson, if you've ever used Unix or know what Unix is or know what C is,
That's us.
that would, yeah. You know who Ken Thompson is? What? Yeah, Ken Thompson is the greatest genius who ever lived ever, except maybe for Claude Shannon. Discuss. Claude Shannon?
Yeah, definitely. That's our line of business.
Oh, you know Claude, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And this is amazing. I talk about Claude Shannon my whole life. I am from Michigan. And you know who mentioned Claude Shannon on the internet about a week ago? And I was like floored. Was Gary Kasparov. He was like, oh, Claude Shannon. I'm like, what? Kasparov's, smart.
Father of modern information.
I guess that's why he was world champion for his whole life, because he's not a dumb guy.
Wrote the first books about.
Yeah, and there's chess stuff. You know the chess, the Shannon number? Yeah, okay. Hey, you guys.
One of his first info theory papers was just figuring out how many variations there are in all of chess.
How many games possible? Yeah, and that too. Yeah, there's more games than variation. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And positions and all of it.
Yeah, it's all crazy talk, but it's true. Anyway, the point is, the reason I mentioned all this nonsense, which went off into a tangent, is because, as Ken Thompson told me, table bases are easy as long as there's no pawns. He said when there's pawns, then he ran away crying. It was really funny watching him run away crying. Yeah, see, there's no pawns here, so chess is easy now. It's all the same. You can turn your head. When there's pawns, you can't turn your head. Yeah, so it's sort of like tic-tac-toe. You can like turn. It's all the same game because it's just 8x8, so it's a 3x3. So when you're playing with no pawns, these are all the back row. When there's pawns, then things change. Yeah, and that too. That's the Finegold number. That's the yeah. By the way, that reminds me of something else. For you mathematicians, this line is longer than that line, but not in chess, which is why Rady made those problems. No, nothing. Yeah, okay, he's nodding. Okay, so yeah, you play rook here and it's over. The king's on the back row. And I have actually a funny story about that, but you guys don't have to hear that. So instead of mating the one way you can just cut the king off of like most of the board. So here, you could go here, which is what I would do, right? But you could also go here. I mean, that's also reasonable. Like the king's just going like in the bit, like it's terrible, right? So when you mate with a rook, generally you don't want to put your opponent in check. Although I have a lot of funny examples from kids tournaments. In fact, I would argue better than rook b5 is actually rook b6 check. Because this method of always doing the same thing and letting him run is crazy. Like here, obviously if he goes back, that worked out pretty well. And if he goes here, I can wait and he's gonna go back soon. Just turn your head. Yeah. Okay, and then here, yeah. Okay, so like in this position, what would people in the class play? Because this is too easy for them. Hold on, I'm shaking my head in derision. Anybody? No? King where? I wouldn't do that, but maybe you're right.
Rook F1.
Rook where? Yeah, all the worst answers I've ever heard. All of them. Where? That's what I would do. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying your moves are worse than mine, but rook e6, your king's going to the back rank in 2 moves. Yeah? You like rook e6? I do. Now, I'll turn the engine on, it's going to see all your moves, and I'm going to look terrible. But, yeah. Yeah, rook, everything is made in 8. It doesn't care. Okay, but all these moves are the same. It's just your king, It's playing, all these are made in 8. Rook e6 can be made in 8 also. Yeah, because I said so. Yeah. Right, it's just moving its rook here so that, yeah. That actually reminds me of a funny problem that's not a problem, which is like this method of winning. I have to leave. Okay, and I meant the room. This is a puzzle I saw before you were all born, especially you. Exactly. And the puzzle was white to play and not mate in 3. There's 4 moves that aren't mate in 3, and all other moves are mate in 3. Can you find one of the 4 moves that's not? What are you, a kid? Oh, yeah. No? Too hard? No, all rook moves are made in 3. All of them. And you thought this was too easy. No, but all rook moves are made in 3 if you'd like, and all king moves are not. So don't move your king. But the point is, black is going to go here next move, and then irrespective, you're going to do that and force him back. And it doesn't matter where you move your rook, you can do it. If you see what I'm saying, which most of you don't. So I go here, and if you go here, I do this. Yeah? And vice versa. Yeah, it doesn't matter where I move my rook. And then I go here. Yeah. But the thing is, if you only know like the stupid technique that takes you an hour, I mean, basically you're stopping the king from doing what he wants to do. Now, you've all heard of zugzwang. Well, most of you. You're in the second class, so you better have. You're supposed to say that's not how it's pronounced. And when you think king and rook versus king, you probably don't think of zugzwang. You're just like, I'm winning. But you can't win unless it's zugzwang. You can't. You could only win king and rook versus king because your opponent has to move. Otherwise, you can't win by force. Your opponent has to help you. So here, if black could say, I pass, it's your move, and could continually do that, you can't win. Okay, you have to win because he has to make his position worse. It's not true with a queen. A queen you can win anyway. But with a rook, your opponent has to hook you up. And like, here, I'll make my position worse. Like, thank you, it's your turn. And you're putting him in zugzwang several times where he has to make his position worse. As in this position, obviously. And I can keep putting you in zugzwang, and you can keep saying, I'm not going to move, but that ain't how chess works. You have to move. Because you have to move, white is winning. And I'll show you one more, then we'll get to the queen, because the queen's, it's like your speed. Try to insult the audience as much as I can. Okay, and you've all seen this puzzle.
Huh?
Good answer. Finally, a good answer. White wins, but white's not allowed to move his rook unless it's mate. So the last move is a rook move. The last one, mate. Until then, you can't do that. So it's hard.
King D6.
King G6, King E8.
Yep. Good job. Good start.
I keep falling King. No.
Yeah, the truth hurts. That's why this is the advanced class. Now, what's funny about this is one time Josh Friedel and I were doing puzzles in front of our homies, and Josh is much better than me at showing these things. And he showed me one just like this, but much harder. Like, I had a lot of trouble solving it. He was like, oh, this is an easy version of this. And I was like, He's like laughing at me. Who?
You go King H7 here and chase him around.
King H7 is the only move. What are you going to do here?
Back King D6.
And then what, repeat and draw?
Always repeat. Yeah, so King H7. Now, if I go here, it's easy. So I go here in case you can make a mistake.
No, I didn't like this.
Yeah, the right move is funny. I think it's funny. Yeah, King H8. Yeah. It's the same as King F8. Yeah. Yeah. Well, King G8, King E8, now you gotta move your king away. Yeah. Okay, now you stalemate me and you don't win. Or don't stalemate me. Even better. Right? Okay. Now, obviously, if King A6, King C5, right? Then mate. Okay. So King A6 is bad. King A8 is also bad. Right? So King B8. I played the best move. The two sweetest words in the English language. Default. Simpsons quote. Okay. Now you have to retreat like a Frenchman. That's why MVL solved this so quickly. Although even better than MVL was Etienne Bacrot, because black's king is on the Bacrot. Yeah. So you can play King C5 or King D5. C'est pas différence, right? Let's go to C5. That was easier. He goes here, and you go here, and we're done, right? Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have to move the rook, but notice it was a lot easier moving the rook. Yeah. Okay, but you don't have to, but I recommend it. Yeah. Now, the queen makes me the maddest. Because I see kids do the queen, and I'm like, they can't mate with the queen. They can't either. Like, it's like 12 hours later, the queen. Okay. Now, when you mate with the queen, very few moves should be check. Almost zero. Now, for some reason, there's somebody on the planet Earth, maybe more than one person, he teaches the kids this. Okay, whoever that guy is should be killed. This is what he teaches the kids. So, like, almost every kid I've met mates with a queen like this. I'm serious. I've seen this. Come on, Ocean, back me up. You've seen this too, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
They move their queen a knight's move away, and then instead of stalemating, now they walk their king up. So that's like the foolproof method that takes 10 times longer than it should. Okay. And they all do that. Like every kid I see, somebody taught them that. So instead of mating in like 4, they mate in like 24. And then their flag falls and they cry. Okay. Now we're going to vote. Voting's fun. Okay. Assuming both sides play perfectly, how long until mate? Instead of voting, we'll just get random answers. So both sides play perfect. How many moves?
Maybe
7? 8?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. She gets 2 answers. And they pass.
Are you going to try to force them to the...
I'm going to play perfect, and you're going to play perfect. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but that's what's going to happen. What do you say?
I haven't done enough table bases, clearly.
But well, it's a queen. It's too easy for this class. No,
I
nothing.
can do it, but how many moves does it take?
All right. Well, you pass.
I'm just gonna guess 10. I have no idea.
10. Okay, so we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or no 9. Okay, the answer is 5. So black plays perfect. It gets mated in 5 moves. Okay, there's only one move that mates in 5. What's the best move for white?
Queen D5.
Yeah, that's right. Easy to analyze too. Very easy. Only move.
I have to.
Yeah, and actually, when I teach to mate with a queen, I tell my students, don't move your queen. I say, move your king next to the other guy's king. And if you can't, then move your queen. In every position. So I can't move my king near your king. I can't. So I'm allowed to move my queen. But now I can. So I'm not allowed to move my queen. Okay? Now I can't. So I'm allowed to move my queen. Queen E5. Now obviously king here is mate. If you don't like that mate, there's this one. If you don't like that one, too bad. Okay, so then queen E5, very good. And now I can move my king near your king. I can get it closer. Yeah. And then there's 3 mates, right? Okay, most people do that one for some reason. And that's like 5 moves. Right. And that's because there's 4 edges of the board, and he's closest to this one, and second closest to this one. It's hard to get him to this one because your king is there. But it's easy to get him to this one, so you push him over there. Now, in the mate in 5, how many times did white put black in check?
1.
Mate. Yeah, before mate, never. Right. So you're forcing the king, and with a queen it's easy, and with a rook it's not as easy, but you're forcing the king. And you're using both of your pieces, and the method I teach is move your king next to the king. The king is slow. So you got to move the king. Queen make 1 or 2 moves. The king makes a lot of moves. This other method here, I'm not even close. I'm still like several moves away. Yeah. However, that's the one I always see. I'm like, who's teaching him that? It's just awful. Man, if you had seconds on your clock, you just can't mate with a queen. Like, if you learned the stupid method, you just can't. Horrible. Rawr. Okay, so this is funny. I had a student who didn't know how to make bishop and knight, and I was showing them, and they said, bishop and bishop, that's even harder. And I was like, that's harder? What? Okay, bishops are easy because you do whatever you want, right? In fact, I even showed this to TI, and he was like, you do whatever you like. He didn't care, right? Too much Patron that night. Anyway, so in my opinion, the king is closest to this. You want to go to one of the 4 corners, right? Okay, now I don't know how to mate with 2 bishops because it's too easy. If it was hard, I would memorize some system, but I can't because it's too easy. So I stop him from going here because that's away from the corner. And then I assume he wants to go here, so I stop him. These might be the wrong moves, but okay. Now when I made him in the corner, I need my white king over here, right? So I'm going to move my king over there. Okay, and then I'll go here because I'm tricky. Not there. Go here because I'm tricky. And then I'm going to stop king here without stalemating him, right? Okay. And once again, we get to the king can just move back and forth. So I could stalemate him, or I could not stalemate him. Also good. And mate. Now that was terrible. It took 10 moves. That's got to be terrible. There was no thinking, but 10 moves. I'm assuming it's like 7, because I just did so terrible. Only 8? Wow. There's only mate and 8. And the first move was the other bishop move. It wasn't my bishop move. My bishop move's not even given. Wow, what a terrible player. Okay, and then I went here, and that took the square away from my king. So the computer likes there. Then my king can go to b6 quicker. So it said that I made 2 mistakes. Ooh, bishop h1. I wasn't going to play that. It just wants my king to be able to come over. So it's getting the bishops out of the way. But nothing's easier than 2 bishops because one controls white, one controls black, and don't stalemate them. Now, when I did it, how many times did I check him? I checked him once and then I mated him. If you're playing king and 2 bishops versus king, there's going to be very few checks. It's just forcing the king to the back. And again, there's 4 back rows. So he's on one of the back rows. Don't let him off. And that's the problem people have when they do these mates, is they don't think about what their opponent wants to do. If your opponent's on the back row, he wants to move off the back row. So don't let them. If they're not on the back row, they want to go to the center. So don't let them. And not letting them do something is more important than your crazy mating ideas. You're going to make them if they can't move off the back row. and don't stalemate them. Whenever my opponent has nothing left or very little, I only think a stalemate and nothing else. Because I'm not going to stalemate somebody 5 pieces up. I'll get laughed at forever. Well, when I'm 60, I can do it because I probably don't have long on this earth. But if I live till 60, I'm going to get laughed at for 12 years, right? 12 minutes is okay. So when I'm older, I can stalemate people. They'll laugh at me and I'll die. That'll show them. But if I stalemate someone like 20, then 45 years of getting laughed at? Come on. And this has happened many times. Many strong grandmasters had a lot of material and they fell into a stalemate trick. And whenever my opponent has just a king or just a bishop or just a rook, I only think a stalemate. Because I'm like, I'm not stalemating this guy. That's the only way I'm not going to beat him is 10 pieces. Okay. And when you have bishop and knight, or a queen, or a rook, or 2 bishops, you got to think about stalemate. The rook is the hardest. You stalemate with a rook, you're trying. You can do it, but it's hard. With a queen, it's easy. Easy to stalemate with a queen. And here it's easy too. There were lots of stalemates. I just didn't do it. Okay. Now, rook versus bishop. Would somebody in the audience be kind enough to explain the technique for drawing? What's that? Yeah, but what I meant was how to draw with the bishop. But I like that. That was good. That's also true.
Can you choose the opposite color of the bishop?
In the corner? That's correct. And here's a tough question. Can black legally mate white? Can you set up a mate where the bishop mates the rook?
Yes. I think. Yes. No.
What if white plays
Yes.
well?
You mean a bishop and a king only?
No, in this position, can you legally construct the bishop mating can black win? Do you see any checkmate possible?
White is very stupid.
No, it's insufficient material. If the rook was off the board, it's
No, but the rook is on the board.
oh, I
So
see.
can you mate? Can you legally get a checkmate from here? Can black checkmate white, or it's impossible?
Yeah, if white
It's
plays along,
possible.
it's possible.
What's that?
It's possible.
Possible. No
Yeah,
comment.
possible.
Possible.
No comments.
No comment. Tough class.
Because you can somehow block your king with your own piece.
Hmm.
Right. So
Yep.
like the king on.
I like when the whole class is run. That's funny. You checkmate me, you're better than me. You can't get checkmated. You can't even set it up. You can try, but trying is the first step to failure. Now, if I had a knight or a bishop, you could mate me. If this piece here was a knight or a bishop, you can set up a checkmate, but not a rook, not a queen. You can't set it up. The rook can always take the bishop or block. There's no legal way to do it. You can try to lose on purpose, but you can't. But it seems like they try. So the point is, in certain tournament rules, you can't lose with the rook, but in certain ones you can. Or maybe you can't. No, checkmate, insufficient. No, you can't. Okay. Anyway, as you pointed out, for some reason, when the guy's getting you to the back row and you're like, oh no, I'm going to lose, which you can lose with the bishop, if you're in the wrong corner of your bishop, you're good. So if I'm black, I'm running over there. Run. No, leave me alone. Okay. And the problem is, let's check them away. Okay. Now I'm going to play bad on purpose because I was doing that before you were born. Now I can play king here, which looks crazy. But that's an easy drawing move. If you check me and I go here, there's a lot of stalemates. Like a lot of moves are stalemate. Okay, like rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here, king here. And one way to try to win is you unstalemate him. Okay. Then he moves his bishop somewhere. That's somewhere, right? And now the idea is you check and you go here, and when the bishop moves, you mate him. Unfortunately, this check wins your rook. This check gets out of that mate, and there's always something you can do. This is what you're trying to do, but it never works. The reason it never works is when the kings are lined up like this and your king's in the wrong corner of your bishop, that means you can check this king. That's the way math works. So if your bishop can't go here, you can always check this king. And if the king is somewhere else, it's never mate. It has to be like this to be mate. And if it's not like this, then your bishop can always block. So this is the easiest way to draw. Now, if you don't know that, and you're like, I don't know how to draw, and you're like, let's go to the other corner. Let's do that. Yay, I'm in this corner. Man, now you're losing. I don't even know how to win. I just know you're losing. Yeah. Well, I assume this just wins immediately, right? I assume. Yeah. Just gonna announce mate. Yeah. Okay. Just instant mate. So that's the worst thing you can do is go in the corner of your bishop. Then your bishop's hopeless. You can't stop anything. But if you're in the correct corner, not only can you draw and easily, but there's a lot of positions you can draw when your opponent has a pawn, which doesn't make any sense. So for example, let's say this was the position and white had a pawn here or here. It's still a draw. Shocking. You're like, I'm down a rook and a pawn for a bishop, but you can't win. There's no way to win. Everything's stalemate. Harsh. This pawn's not helping you. Okay, and if you do have a pawn, you have to keep your pawn back and force the black king out of that corner and then queen it, which is complicated. That's study like, yeah. So as long as your king is in the opposite corner of your bishop, you draw. Now, there are positions where you will intentionally have a rook against a bishop because the king's in the wrong corner. So like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to win this rook versus bishop because his king can't get to that corner. His king's stuck in here, and I'm gonna mate him. Obviously, in random positions, the king is randomly placed. It's a draw. But there are positions where if your king finds itself in the corner of the bishop and it can't get out, you're going to lose most of those positions. Try to get out of that corner. Terrible. So rook against bishop is a draw, but if you don't know how to draw it, you can easily lose. And if you have this position, it's really hard to lose. Even if you try to lose, it's hard. It's not easy to lose. You have to like almost intentionally lose. Like I move my rook, you move your bishop somewhere. And now you're almost losing. Almost. What's the only drawing move?
Bishop F7.
Yeah, you check them, and then there's no more mates. Yeah. So you have to really, you can try hard to lose, but it's not easy. Yeah. And even if you go here, there's always that check. And then I have this check and this check. Two checks. Yeah. And the problem is, you need my king to be on g8 so you can mate me. When my king's on h8, I just block with my bishop. And then it's going to be stalemate if you don't unstalemate me. I win bishop away. So it's pretty easy to not lose. Yeah. Okay, so that's how you draw with a bishop. As you pointed out, go to your king in the other corner if you're forced to a corner. If you're not forced to a corner, stay in the center. Center's better. Exactly. Okay, now, king and pawn makes me the maddest because no matter how many times I show the same position, it's like an equal vote. Like half of you are going to say it's a win, half will say it's a draw, no matter what I do. I can't make you guys say the right answer. I can't. All right, let's do this position, for example. I guarantee with 5 people it'll be a 3-2 vote. Even if you guys try to trick me and just like, I'm going to vote like them, so it's not 3, it'll still be 3-2. Okay, it's white's turn to move. And white's going this way.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, if white was going the other way, it might not be 3-2. So either white's winning or it's a draw.
White is winning.
No comment.
Win.
Win, draw,
I think you can win.
Draw.
3-2. Yeah, right?
The adults were 6.
It don't matter what I show. It's always like, I don't know, and they just randomly guess. Okay, so if the king goes here, what do you think?
Draw.
That's easy draw. If you know that's a draw, you go to the first class. I'm half kidding, only half. Okay, turns out if your king is here, you also draw, and you can't stop it. So the kids were right. Okay, and every move draws. King here draws, king here draws. And to shock the audience, even I'm going to be shocked. This will even shock me. These 2 moves draw, and black has 2 other moves that draw. Good luck finding them. I wish you luck. I'm a nice guy.
King D8 and King E8.
Yeah, that's good luck. Yeah. Yeah, this also draws, and this draws, shocking the audience. Right? Are you shocked? No. Yeah, what's that called?
Triangulation.
No, this is called something.
Opposition?
No, it's a kind of opposition.
Long opposition.
Well, yeah, distant opposition. Yeah, if I turn the engine on, it says all zeros, which is weird because I'd rather have white. You know what I mean? Like I should say 0.01. I'd rather have white. Yeah. Okay, so these are draws. The way you win king and pawn versus king is always the same. Your king goes in front of your pawn, which it can't do here. You can't go in front of your pawn. I stopped you. And you have the opposition. So here, by going in front of your pawn, let's go here. Black gets the opposition by playing
King E7.
King D7. That's what you meant.
Yes.
You meant that, you just said E7, right? And conversely, after King E5, King E7. Yeah. The thing is, if these positions are draws, and they are, and you're playing Rufus and Doofus, which you are, you don't ever offer a draw when you have the pawn. They ain't going to draw you. I don't care what the rating is. They ain't going to draw you. Now, if they're 2,000, they're going to draw you. But when they're under 1,500, they might be drawing every move, and then they make a mistake and they lose. Okay, even here. Okay, for example, in this position, what should Black play?
King D8.
Still everything draws, right? King D8.
Hmm?
King C6 doesn't draw.
I like that the class is wrong about everything they say. Everything they said. Rawr. Did anybody see the Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Everything they say is wrong.
Okay.
I like that line in the movie. I was like, I say that. I'm going to sue them. Yeah. He said it twice, too. Every part of that sentence was wrong. Okay. So there's 4 legal moves. We agree? And now to shock the audience, one of them draws. The other 3 lose.
King D8.
King D8's a draw. You always move your king back and forth. If you don't, you lose. For example, here, which you agree loses. Even you said that loses. Okay. So after here, I win. Hooray for me. Bam. And I queen. Now, irrespective of whether the king is here, here, or here, you play here. And then you go back. And you keep doing this. And then sometimes King D7 is illegal. Sometimes. For example, it's illegal here. Then you go here. And it would also be illegal if my king was on C6. So I would go here, and so forth. Now, a very important rule for you guys. Okay. One of the rules I told you was when the king is in front of the pawn, because you're trying to win, if you have the opposition, you win. If your opponent doesn't, it's a draw, but there's an exception. If the white king is on the 6th rank, well, not those squares, but the other ones, then you're winning irrespective of whose turn it is. So in this position, if it's white's turn or black's turn, it's a win. If it's black's turn, that's pretty easy. Well, you queen. Yeah. If it's white's turn, you still win. You play king here, they play king e8, you play d6, and you win. Yeah. King on the 6th rank is good. Okay, it's in front of the pawn. So to go back, is this a win or a draw?
Draw.
It's a draw because the black king is great. Okay, black king was somewhere else, it'd still be a draw. Yeah. It's hard to win. Yeah, in fact, if my king is anywhere here, it's a draw. Anywhere, because I can draw by going up, or I can draw by going back at the distant opposition. Now, what's funny about this is, in this position, this draws and this draws. They all draw, okay, and the other ones. However, if we keep going, well, that was the wrong way to go. If we keep going here, let's go back. Yeah. In this position, it's important what you do, right? You have 4 moves, but you have to go straight back. When you're not going to the back row, it doesn't matter what you do, but it's good technique to do the right thing. So in this position, even though this draws and this draws, you should practice getting the opposition. I would practice that. And in this position, all legal moves draw. Are you shocked? They all draw. And that's because we're not going to the back rank. We go to the back rank, we got to chill out. And so for good practice, which move should you make so that you always play the right move? Yeah, you should always go here because you always go straight back. Although, if you play the wrong move, you're still good. You can't lose. But if you go here, you're setting yourself up later to lose because you want to just go back and forth and get the opposition. Okay, but it's a draw unless white's king gets in front of the pawn and he has the opposition. And since white's king is behind the pawn, very suspicious. Here's a puzzle you've seen often, which means you've probably never seen it. No new, okay. And this is also king, and this is just funny because it's like the starting position. Okay, let's get a 5 out of 5 this time. Hold on, let me call Vegas and bet against everybody. I bet against everybody. I still have to give you 10 to 1 odds? Okay. I bet against all of you and I still got odds. Good. Okay. White to move, what is the correct result?
White is white.
Black to move, what is the correct result?
White wins.
On both of them?
Sure.
Okay, and
No.
White to move, white wins. I've never looked at it for black.
White to move, white wins. Black to move is draw.
okay, and he's thinking about it, and these two abstain.
I don't see how black draws.
I think black draws if he was first and white wins if he was first.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's 2 out of 2. The kids always say the same thing, and they're right last time. No comment.
I still think white can win.
White wins both ways. If white,
I think so.
okay. No, I know nobody knows. They're guessing, unless they sound super confident. Then careful.
You can still get the white king in front of the pawn either way, so.
That's right.
So you think white wins either way?
Yeah.
You think white wins either way. You both think it's a draw if black goes first, but white wins if it's his move, and you abstain.
I'm saying on black to move. But
Okay, so white to move, you think white wins. Black to move, you're considering it. All right. We might have 2, 2, and 1. Tough position. Okay, white to move wins, which we all agree, and that's because of the Finegold rule. The Finegold rule is when your king is 2 squares in front of your pawn, the only drawing move is king takes pawn. Black ain't going to play king takes pawn here. It ain't going to happen. And if I move my king first, I'm going to get my king 2 squares in front of my, well, or I could typo. I'm going to get my king 2 squares in front of my pawn. And when I do, it doesn't matter whose turn it is. If it's white's turn, white's winning. If it's black's turn, white's winning. If it's white's turn, white plays e3, making it black's turn. And if it's black's turn, white just moves his king up. So the question is, can white get his king 2 squares in front of the pawn if it's black's turn to move? Which the kids say no. Or we could get it 1 square in front of the pawn and we have the opposition, which would also win. And making it black's turn to move is tough, but I'm going to do it by tricking everybody. Oh man, this is the greatest trick of my life. Did I do it yet? Yeah, okay. And now it's black's turn to move. I triangulated by playing insane. Yeah. So white to move, we all agree white wins, and you're correct. Black to move, we have a disagreement. We have 2 to 2 with an abstention. Is too hard?
It's funny.
Yeah. Who do you believe, the kids that are always right or the adults that are always wrong?
Kids are always right.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, it's a draw. Yeah. And so, I don't know, here, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And now, whether white goes here or here, black has to play the opposition move. Here's pretty easy, right? Yeah. And this is the same. Black has 1 move that draws, 1 out of 8. Tough odds. King F5 draws. All other moves lose. So I would play that. And so forth. And then we just keep following the king. And eventually white is getting tired of that. So he moves his pawn and it's a draw. And if I turn this on in this position where it's black to move, it'll say all zeros, even though I would rather have white. I guarantee I want to have white. And if it's white to move in the starting position, it'll announce mate. Yeah, tough computer, right? You could announce mate now. I told them you would. Come on, you're making like Alpha Zero look good. Yeah, there we go. You had to yell it a little. So white wins. White to play is winning. Black to play is drawing. And that's because white wants to get his king here, which he can't do if it's black to move. And white is going to play king f3, king e3, or king d3 before black has to make a decision. And when white decides on king e3, black plays king e5, king f3, king f5, king d3, king d5, QED, right? As a lawyer, you say QED a lot, right?
Yeah.
What? Well, come on, what are you, one of Trump's lawyers? That's a good one. Are they actually lawyers? So Trump was never a lawyer.
Oh.
No, but I have a follow-up point. When's the last president that was not a lawyer? See, look, he's thinking. They're all thinking. The kids are like, what's a lawyer?
Eisenhower?
Reagan wasn't a lawyer.
No?
Reagan was
Wasn't he the governor?
Reagan wasn't a lawyer.
Wow, he was a
Carter wasn't a lawyer.
Yeah.
Ford, I'm not sure Ford was a lawyer.
I have a Gerald Ford story before the class ends. And nobody has a Gerald Ford story, just me. I taught a chess camp in Michigan, and as you all know, Gerald Ford went to Michigan and played football for Michigan. Anyway, So there's the presidential libraries at the University of Michigan. So I'm there and I'm teaching chess in the library, camp. And what did I tell the kids? I always tell the kids the same thing. Never resign. And then I said, wait, we're in this building because the president resigned. The truth hurts. Wait, you get that? What? I don't know if he gets it, but he's laughing. Yeah. Which president resigned? Yeah, I didn't think he got it. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
You're only one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, only one, but when the video gets published,
Who knows?
it could be more. There's a Simpsons episode where they do a Super Bowl episode, and obviously they make the episodes a long time in advance, so they don't know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. So what they did is they said, my favorite team's playing in the Super Bowl, and then the character would do that, and then later they added the audio of whatever he said. The favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you could hear, and then at some point they were making fun of Clinton being impeached, and they were like, yeah, that's my favorite president, Bill Clinton, because they figure if he gets impeached, there'll be another president. So, no, nothing. All right, that class is too complicated for you. Yeah. All right, good job. You guys did well, and nobody fell asleep except the audience at home.